This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Buttigieg would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man. But we were already asking a lot of America, to accept a woman, a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. Those are the words of dizzying intellect Kamala Harris in her new book, 107 Days. And as I said, Mark Bednar's reaction was one of my favorites on X. 107 Days and 108 Excuses. We've been talking all morning about the lack of self-awareness. I feel like J.D. Vance talking to Martha Raddatz. Do you hear yourself? Does your editor hear you? Buttigieg, quote, would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man, but we were already asking a lot of America to accept a woman, a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. It was too big of a risk for me to believe that America isn't this bigoted place that we had to, and that we had to overcome the fact that I'm a black woman and that I'm married to a Jewish man, because everyone looks at each other the way that I look at demographics on a spreadsheet about the electorate. That's all that people care about. Pay no mind to the fact that America elected a black man twice. Okay, but it's the race combined with the sex, combined with the sexual orientation. It would have just been too much, because the majority of Americans will not make a decision based on the merits or based on someone's character or based on someone's policy views or a combination of all of the above. They're strictly going to say, here is the highest intersectional score I'll accept, and I will accept no higher score when it comes to my presidential ticket. She just gets dumber. And by the way, she's not the only one. Kathy Hochul is the governor of New York. Yeah, seriously. She is someone who you may remember essentially suggested that black kids at New York City public schools don't know what a computer is. Here's what she recently had to say when she was celebrating herself for handing out $250 quote-unquote inflation rebate checks to people under a certain income threshold in New York State, to buy votes.
One day, get something you really need, okay? Don't stop by the liquor store, okay? Buy something for the kids. Buy them some food. Sometimes I have to stop by the liquor store, too. I understand. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. She was talking to a mainly black audience. I think she heard in her head what she said and then tried to bail herself out by saying sometimes I have to stop at the liquor store, too. Could you have any less regard for the people you say you are running or in office to represent? Could you have any lower opinion of them? For more on all this, please be joined by Noah Rothman, senior writer at National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thanks for joining us as always.
My pleasure.
So Kamala Harris, excited admission, although not that excited because this had to go through some scrutiny. It's a remarkable disclosure.
I have so little to add to your introductory monologue. Everything has been said and perfectly well. Yeah, I had the exact same reaction. I think probably everybody on the right, or at least most people on the right, had a very similar reaction because we can see how the obvious mental gymnastics that you're performing in order to avoid, just flat out telling on yourself. But that is basically what she's doing. I too I marvel at the degree to which this woman wrote these words down. They went through an editor. They went through her publisher. They were surveyed by her publicist. They were reviewed by The Atlantic. Nobody encountered a pang of conscience while disseminating this slight against the American people. And it is an insult. Yeah, you're racist.
Yeah.
You're probably homophobic. You're probably sexist and anti-Semitic. Or at least one of those three, if not all of them. We just simply can't bombard you with all this stuff. You're not saying anything about the American people in that. You're saying that about yourself.
Right.
That's how you see the public. That's how you see the political landscape. Just a set of demographics and people who are flattened into the traits that they inherited at birth and have no individuality associated with them. In fact, we can probably just assess them to be the worst possible versions of themselves. And then, even more insulting is that the press goes and runs with this, operating, I assume, under the assumption that they're the good ones, that they actually don't belong to this noxious club that Kamala Harris is indicting here, like CNN's former CNN host, Chris Cillizza. Harris might have been right about this, he writes, but it also reflects a broader risk aversion that plagued her campaign. Well, Chris, it reflects a lot of things, but risk aversion is not what that demonstrates. That takes on quite a bit of risk. It just takes on no risk with your cohort. Your ideological cohort regards the assumption that the American people are fundamentally racist, fundamentally bigoted, is just taken at face value. It's a religious precept. So, yeah, there's no risk in retailing that to you, but it certainly does to everybody else. And the kind of condescension that buttresses that the foundation upon which that assumption is based, a really high estimation of your acumen and enlightenment and a low estimation of everybody else's, that comes through in other ways. We all experience the kind of condescension that Kamala Harris retailed over the course of that campaign. She probably didn't see it and Democrats didn't see it, but we all did, and the American people rejected it. And this is a symptom of that broader malady.
It is sort of a risky, I got to say, it's not risk aversion because it's sort of a risky proposition. I mean, she didn't say it in these words, but it might as well have been, my campaign for president. I wanted to do the right thing, but the American people wouldn't let me.
Just when you put it that way,
right?
It's like, how dare you? This is all your fault. I mean, it is barely concealed contempt for the American people for rejecting her. But that contempt was apparent before she was rejected. If we're to take this assessment at face value, she had no regard for you and your capacity for rational judgment before voters turned against her. So, yeah, it is illustrative of a particular outlook, not just Kamala Harris's outlook either. This is the sort of thing that encounters no resistance among the liberal intelligentsia.
No, I mean, if I don't know if Ron DeSantis would have said what Kathy Hochul said. I mean,
instantly they definitely see it when it comes from mouths that they're already disinclined to agree with.
But the thing that's consistent with Kamala and Kathy Hochul and the left in general too is that, and it's been for a long time. This isn't new, but it bears readdressing. It's just the infantilization that you're talking about. I have no expectations for you. I have no belief that you have any sort of capacity that you can even get through the day without me giving you something that I took from somebody else, or providing explicit direction as to how you're supposed to live and what you're supposed to think.
And this is all catching on in the political culture. The divide now, is not between skin colors. It's not between demographics. It's cultural. It's your affect. It's your mood. It's your disposition. It's your economic bracket, and it's increasingly less affinity groups based on race. Kamala Harris's demographic background has very little to do with how she's received by people who have a certain amount or a certain disposition based on their culture, their acculturation, their income bracket, and that doesn't matter about race. For example, Zohran Mamdani's, when he was in the primary, the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani's worst performing groups were low-income Americans and African-American demographics. In the boroughs in New York City that are dominated by African-Americans, he performed the lowest, and it had nothing to do with his skin color, everything to do with his affect, his demeanor, and the world in which he came up, which is very effete, very elite, rich, wealthy, progressive, inculcated, just sort of isolated from broader society. And they're trained in this jargon, this highly pseudo-academic jargon that emphasizes demography as though it were destiny. And that's just rejected increasingly by the people who share the demographics that they think they're appealing to. So it is a dead end. They just haven't recognized it yet.
Yeah, and that dynamic is sort of papered over by the apparent success of somebody like Mamdani in New York City. But Steve Kornacki, reporting for NBC, the 28 states that register voters by party, Republicans have slashed longstanding Democratic registration edge by more than 1 million just since the 2024 election. By comparison, after Trump's first term, or in Trump's first term, the net shift to the GOP after 2016, before 2018, was barely 100,000. So they're already at 10x. And there's been more data that along those lines that suggests real moves away from, especially big moves away from Democrats, and then a slightly bigger move towards Republicans. Some are, moving from Democrat to independent and holding serve and seeing what happens. But I just wonder what you think of those trend lines. And then now, I know it's difficult to predict, but your intuition on it after the Charlie Kirk assassination.
So I haven't seen a lot. Polling is sort of too fresh. I mean, the event is too fresh to see that in polling. And I see incongruity between these trends towards Republican registration rates and the polling ahead of the midterms, which is, again, very premature, but does not seem to indicate that there's, we don't see indications that Democrats should experience a wave next year, although it's, again, far too early and a lot of things will happen between then and now. But Republicans aren't cleaning up in the generic ballot test, which tests generally if you want Republicans or Democrats to control Congress. So I'd be cautious about extrapolating broadly from these registration trends. That said, when I was young, late 90s, early 2000s, the New Deal coalition was still very much a thing. And it was the broadest possible coalition of voters you can possibly imagine. I mean, during the New Deal, it was a coalition that included Southern segregationists and civil rights activists. It was the broadest possible coalition you can imagine. And it was still very effective and operative. Like, it wasn't 1994 was the first time since, I believe, 1947 that Republicans took over Congress. So it was this behemoth that could not be undone until then, and you still saw evidence of it even up to 2011, 2012. The Mississippi legislature, for example, didn't turn Republican until 2011. Like this is stuff that we grew up with, and it was really powerful, and it's been falling away rapidly. But we sort of take it for granted that we live in this brand new political culture where Republicans are actually equally represented in voter registration or in Congress. I mean, that's the sort of thing that was not conceivable when I was young, and is now a feature of life. So we're moving through some really tumultuous times when it comes to political self-identification, but yet to be determined how that manifests in the 2026 midterms. It's a much bigger story than just one election cycle.
Noah Rothman, senior writer, National Review, author of The Rise of the New Puritans, Fighting Back Against Progressives' War on Fun. Noah, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity